The latest figures on inflation have gone through the roof, and as well as the cost of living, they've also impacted the housing market, with the average house price now increased by 10.9% over the year up till February of 2022, up from 10.2% in January. These figures show how it is increasingly difficult for younger generations to get on the housing ladder. Previous governments have tried to, of course, tackle the issue with the Help to Buy scheme, but that hasn't managed to solve the problem. Well, joining me now to discuss all of this is Freddie Poser. He is the head of social media at Priced Out. Freddie, thank you very much indeed for joining us. House prices continue to rise. Is that going to continue into the future, though, if you like? Because we're almost certainly going to see interest rates increase quite substantially in the months to come.
Yeah, this is going to continue. Interest rates are not the key driver of house price rises. It's a lack of supply. The fact is we haven't built enough homes in this country for years. More people want to live in those homes, so prices keep going up. That's why this is happening. It's not really because of inflation like other goods. It is a simple mismatch of supply and demand.
Is it? How out of kilter are we with supply and demand?
Well, it's difficult to put numbers on it because demand is influenced by how much we build, but we know that the average amount of space everyone has per capita is falling in this country. We know we need to build at least 300,000 homes a year. We've known that for decades now, and we haven't done that in any year since those figures came out of the House of Lords. We know that household formation, is suppressed by the fact that we don't build enough homes. People aren't allowed to move out of living with their parents, move out of living with flatmates. People are still in house shares well into their 30s because they can't move out.
Well, why is that a problem, though, in the sense of why have we in this country got this need to own a home, even when it might financially make us worse off in the short, medium, or even in the long term?
Well, the fact is that this isn't even about just owning a home. This is about rents, first and foremost. It's about the cost of living in a house or a flat, even in London. You know, we're not talking about the cost of a house because everyone has to own. We're talking about the fact that most people can't afford to live on their own in this country. Yes, people can't afford to buy a home because we haven't built them, but people can't afford to rent a home either. And that's true up and down the country. We're not building enough, and we're not building enough in the right places.
Is the solution, though, to this, is it just simply that we just need to build more homes? Is that it? Is there anything else that can be done to try and ease this? I mean, I mentioned in the intro, didn't I, the Help to Buy scheme, which in theory was meant to provide people with a bit more money. But is it simply, it just has to come down to building more homes?
So the Help to Buy scheme is a bit like shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic. You know, if you do the Help to Buy scheme, all you do is create more demand and you'll just raise prices basically by the amount you put into the system. There are things that the government can and should do in the short term, because building homes on any large scale takes, decades now. We've got decades of catch up to do. Things like improving the private rented sector, which is a growing part of the UK housing market. So things like making sure landlords have more legal responsibilities to their tenants, making sure houses are better insulated, things like that. Those will help the situation of many renters out there. But yes, in the medium term, the only thing that will help is to build more homes. If there aren't enough homes, whether you use the price mechanism to allocate those homes or government fiat, in the end, someone's going to be left out here.
The other thing that obviously you talk about a lack of homes, I mean, it's driven in part, clearly we have got an increasing population still, but it's also driven, isn't it, by kind of societal changes, where there are a lot more people who are single, who want to live on their own, and a lot more people who are older and want to live on their own. So it's been driven not necessarily just by population. This demand has also been driven by the fact that there's been somewhat of a breakdown in the family unit, the traditional family unit as we understand it. Is that right?
I'm not sure that the data bears that out, especially not on the younger end. We're seeing people living with their parents actually a lot later at the moment than they did, say, 20, 30 years ago, again, because of the housing market. I'm sure societal changes affect the nature of demand and especially where the demand is. But I think the fact is that we're doing ourselves a massive disservice as a country by failing to build enough homes, because we're hamstringing our own economy. People are much more productive when they can live where they want and work where they want and can earn the most money.
Let me then, very finally in all of this, then people would say, yeah, build more homes, fine. But the other thing that would really ease this problem, certainly in certain parts of the country, is to stop people buying second, third, fourth homes.
Absolutely. So, as I say, there are things that the government can do in the short term. So in places like Wales or the Peak District or Lake District, there can be a real issue with second homes. And I think in those specific cases, maybe it is relevant to look at affecting that. But in the end, I'd like to live in a country where we're not hamstrung by the lack of homes and that people aren't having to compete with second home buyers, that both can exist, happily in a functioning and prosperous community. So in the short term, that might help, but we need to build more homes.
Freddie, thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on GB News.